is wealth. And tonight, again, we are here with Women's Health. And thanks to Dr. Mehrotra, and I hope our viewers that we don't have to worry more about us since the doctor is with us again this Wednesday. So welcome back, Dr. Mehrotra, again in the show, Health is Wealth.
Thank you so much, Ragini. It's great to be back week after week and talking to our viewers and trying to bring some good educational piece for them. So it's great to be back with you.
All right. And like last week, we do have 3 gorgeous ladies with us who are going to share their thoughts with our viewers. And Naveen, please take that honor to introduce them with our viewers.
Sure, and it is our honor and privilege, and thank you very much, ladies, for being here. We're going to start off from the end here. We have Dr. Navpreet Chatta, who is a very well-established OBGYN, prominent in our community. Next, we have Dr. Rashmi Acharya, another really prominent, excellent OBGYN from our community. And we have Dr. Meena Murthy, who is the head of the Diabetes Center at St. Peter's University Hospital. It is really an honor to have all of you guys to be talking about our topic today, which is gestational diabetes. I think it's a term that a lot of people may not know, right? And we thought that it's extremely important to discuss that during Women's Health because this is a common issue in our community. And I think we can start off by just hearing about your experiences when you deal with pregnancy and what gestational diabetes you've had to deal with. Dr. Chatta, we can start from you.
Right. I think one thing in our community in itself, the Indian community, it's very prevalent. Diabetes in itself, we're considered high risk. And as women during reproductive age, we get pregnant. And during pregnancy, diabetes specific to pregnancy is called gestational diabetes. So that's something that a lot of people aren't aware of, and many people don't pay attention to. They get pregnant and don't realize the screening that's involved and all the importance in good glucose control during pregnancy. So we're here to hopefully teach the public about it.
So, Dr. Acharya, I know before the show we were talking about all of these things that mother-in-laws or moms might tell their pregnant daughters or daughter-in-laws not to do or what to do, and how do you manage all of that in terms of gestational diabetes? What are your thoughts on that?
So first of all, I just want to say our culture is really great and I respect our culture. But on the other hand, about the food habits that we have, and especially during pregnancy and when the woman is planning a pregnancy, we get free advice from everybody that do this, don't do this. But a lot of things may not make sense. A common myth that happens is that eat for 2 people when you are pregnant. And in first 3 months, don't bend, keep resting, don't do any activity, which is really harmful to the pregnant person. And I'm very passionate about gestational diabetes. I think Dr. Murthy knows about it very well. And gestational diabetes is not only something that is only during pregnancy, but it puts the unborn baby, the newborn baby at risk of developing diabetes. And secondly, once the patient has delivered, in a couple of years, her risk of having diabetes is really very, very high. So I think that is something that we should pay attention to, and it is very prevalent. Every day in our office, we are 4 doctors in our practice, and all of us do see a lot of pregnant patients with diabetes. And the other thing that we are noticing now is that we have patients who are coming in first trimester, the first visit when they come, and their hemoglobin A1C, which tells us about the glucose control for past 3 months, it is coming really high and high. So some of them may be diabetic before being pregnant, and that is where we want to pay attention to, that we should be in the best shape when we are planning a pregnancy and not eating for 2 people or resting only.
Well, being a pediatrician, I see the receiving end. So all of the moms that you're taking care of who have diabetes, but we also have to make sure that we look at the babies. And in that immediate period, right after birth, it is a critical piece that has to be addressed, and even long term. And I think Dr. Murthy can talk about the long-term effects and what the issues are as women go forward.
I'll start with even risk factors for gestational diabetes, and then what it means and why we should, worry about it. a little bit more expansion. When the young girl, grows up into a woman through puberty, many girls at that time gain a lot of weight, and that already puts at very high risk for pregnancy-related diabetes. So it didn't start the day they were planning for pregnancy, their risk. The risk starts at how the child is reared. As a pediatrician, you would know how the child is carried through that puberty. Also, if we are talking about a certain region, young women are prone to what we call as polycystic ovarian syndrome. A lot of women know this because they have menstrual disorders as in their teenage years. What we are seeing now is precocious puberty, meaning girls developing menstrual cycle very early in their age. Like instead of 13 years, they start menstruating at 8 years or 9 years or 10 years. And this is all lifestyle related. And that's why it's important to pay attention to girls from their young age of what kind of activities, how they eat, because we can see in the villages the rate for diabetes in women, gestational diabetes in women, is very low. The same woman moves to a little town nearby or a little city nearby, her rate for gestational diabetes goes up tremendously. And if they then immigrate to America, their rate even goes higher. And if they are, IT engineer or physician or whoever is sitting in their chair like an attorney all day long, their risk goes up much higher. So it starts from, at least, a girl can pay attention from the age of puberty through their college years of how they take care of their lifestyle.
Yeah.
And Dr. Acharya said something about planning a pregnancy. And that means not just planning with your husband and planning with your family, it's planning with your doctor. So always make sure you are going into it in the best shape and actually have evaluated whether you have risk for diabetes, whether you have pre-diabetes or actual diabetes already, or you're at risk of developing gestational diabetes. And many people confuse what diabetes in pregnancy is. So a woman can have diabetes and can become pregnant, and that's very different than somebody developing diabetes from the pregnancy. And from the pregnancy, they usually develop it in the second trimester. So certain complications are not there for those people, whereas if a person already has diabetes and develops pregnancy or becomes pregnant, that person is more prone for a different kind of complication in the child. So those are things that people should understand, learn about, engage themselves in figuring this out before planning the pregnancy, of how to never have this problem, either before pregnancy, during pregnancy, or after pregnancy, right? It's prevention. We call it primary prevention, secondary prevention, and tertiary prevention.
Oh my God. Are you confused? There's a lot of information we just got. Valuable.
And of course, this is really great, and I do believe that our viewers are checking those points and who are really thinking about being a new mom or already going through pregnancies. So I do know that you have your own doctor, plus I do believe that you do have your own personal doctors with you, plus do listen what Dr. Murthy is saying to us right now. And because I has gone through with this thing, and this is really what I am really connecting with what she is saying.
Right.
So this is a lot of information, good information that our viewers are getting.
Right. So I think we can also just there's a lot of information that's going to be
Yes.
given out here, and if we don't get to some of that information, they can always message us on that, right?
You always can message us, and you will, always can inbox us, and of course you can reach me at ragini@manatv.net. Any question you have, you can always reach us to us, and we would love to answer those questions, even though not today, of course later on
Sure.
sometime, and of course we will reach out to you.
So when a person does get pregnant and they don't know, anything about their diabetes status, what are some of the things that you would do in the office? What is the standard protocol in terms of checking for sugar issues?
So first is we just go, as Dr. Murthy said, we go through the list of like what are the risk factors. So somebody definitely who's obese. For Asians, we say that the BMI should be 23 or more. Apart non-Asians, we say 25 or more. So there are certain risk factors we see that, okay, are these like PCOS is one of the risk factors, family history of diabetes in first degree relatives. So there are a lot of risk factors that we already have actually. And so if they have that, we can do an early glucola in them. That means we ask them to do a specific glucose test, in which they drink a 50-gram glucose and they wait in the office for an hour, and after 1 hour, their blood is drawn, and the cutoff for that should be 129. If it is 130 or more, then we send them, that is just a screening test. And then they go for a 3-hour test, in which they get 100-gram glucose. And we do the glucose test fasting, then after 1 hour of having the drink and 2 hours and 3 hours, their blood is drawn. If they don't have the risk factors, suppose then we will do an hemoglobin A1C. That tells us the risk that tells us how their glucose control has been in the last 3 months. So if it is 5.7 or more, then we say that they are at risk, and then they go through the process of glucola, the 1-hour test and the 3-hour test.
So, but Dr. Chatter, do you do this for anybody who's South Asian, or do you do this for only once you do the screening for the risk test?
Correct. So if they have a certain risk factor, then we would do the early screening test. But all of our patients, key is, I think, mainly is that they should be coming in early for their prenatal care. So we see them appropriately, and we're able to diagnose it early if it is they're diabetic prior and didn't know about it. Also, with the history of PCOS and things like that, it's good to see us as a preconception counseling appointment. So we see them even before they get pregnant, and then we're able to see them early on. So we're able to go through the risk factors and everything, and then test them early on if they need it. If not, then we test everyone at 26 weeks, between 24 to 28 weeks, but our office does it at 26 weeks, where we test everybody to make sure that, like Dr. Murthy said, gestational diabetes develops in the second trimester. So anyone can at some point develop it, and this way we're catching those people as well.
All right, and I do believe that we have a caller, and let's welcome. Hello, welcome to Health is Wealth. You are with Ragini and Dr. Mehrotra, and hello? Hello? I think
We might have lost
lost
them.
him.
Yeah.
Hello? Hello?
Well, I guess
Hello?
they can call back in, right? So
Yeah,
I think,
actually, please do call us back in, because the line is not clear right now. But I do have a question. So as you were talking about mostly for the time-bound things, or maybe from the risk factors development or anything. So is it, or it can happen like sometimes the family does have the factor with the diabetes, but maybe that girl, maybe who is in early 24, 25, she doesn't have it in the maybe 4th or 5th month testing time, but can she develop it like later on, like ending of the cycle, like maybe 7 months or 8 months as well?
Yeah, sometimes we do see such patients actually, that when we see that the baby, they do, so when they come for the office visit, we measure the belly.
Okay.
That is called the fundal height. We measure, and if we feel that the size is bigger for the baby, and if suppose we do ultrasound in our office, then if the baby is measuring big and the fluid around the baby is more, or the baby's abdomen is much bigger than what it is supposed to be at their gestational age, we do think that okay, it may be because of diabetes, because that is one of the risk factors. If a person has gestational diabetes, then the baby can be bigger. That is called macrosomia, and the fluid is more, that is called polyhydramnios. So
Okay.
then what happens is that we do the test at that time,
Okay.
and we will go straight to the 100-gram 3-hour GTT at that point.
Okay, and of course we do have a caller, and I can hear a lot of calls are coming in, and I do want to welcome you all. So let's welcome our next caller, and welcome to Health as Well. We are with Ragini and Dr. Meherudra, and with this beautiful panel of doctors. Hello? Hello?
I think we might have some technical
exactly.
issues today.
Yeah,
That's
something
okay.
is going on,
That's
but
perfectly okay.
The
So
calls
the-
are there, and I'm really happy, Naveen, that the message is going out.
Of course.
And people are really reacting, and I do love all of you who are watching us right now live, and of course you can catch us later on Mana TV's Facebook, and as I said before, you can always inbox us with your own questions. Okay, Naveen?
And it is definitely, such an honor to have an expert like
Yes.
the panel that we have here.
Yes.
So, Dr. Murthy, I know one of the things we always say that, or you tell us that if somebody has gestational diabetes, they have a chance of continuing on their diabetes, or what are the follow-ups that need to get done?
So gestational diabetes means extreme risk for diabetes in some time during the lifetime. And Dr. Acharya said within the next 5 years that they would develop is pretty high already. Pregnancy changes a woman's body just like puberty does. A pregnancy is a big time when a woman's body changes a lot. So we make a lot of new fat cells that will never go away, right? And that makes it even at higher risk. And new mothers are usually not paying attention to their own health, but they are now having extra responsibilities of child rearing, breastfeeding, as well as taking care of their families, their jobs, and so they are not always exercising or eating well. And during postpartum stage, which is 1 year after the childbirth, most women should be losing weight. Instead, the norm nowadays is that they are gaining weight during that time. That puts them at more risk. So we would usually screen them at 6 weeks with the same kind of testing that Dr. Acharya was talking about, with a glucose challenge. Give them glucose and check their blood tests 1 hour after, 2 hours after, 3 hours after, and that 3 hour 3 month average, that hemoglobin A1C test, which is just one spot blood test. If it cannot stay in the lab for 3 hours, you must at least get that A1C done. But many women may look okay in that test at 6 weeks. Then they forget about it all over again, till the next pregnancy happens. And they're already 8 weeks pregnant, and they land in Dr. Acharya's
And the
office.
hemoglobin A1C is
Right? Because in between they have actually developed diabetes, and they didn't take care of it. And why we are stressing this over and over again is it is completely preventable. It's unfortunate that we have to, program a baby wrong. That baby's life for the next 100 years we are programming as a mother. My mother would say, the seed is important, but the cooker it cooks in is as important. And women who carry this baby, there is what we call as developmental programming. And within first few weeks, a lot of development has happened, even before you're pregnant. So if you're not paying attention, it is very, very significantly adverse for the next baby that may come, the second baby. And we can prevent it.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt, but we do believe, hello, welcome to Health as Well, and may I know who is this, please? Hello? Okay,
Seems like technical issues today, but that's okay.
Well,
But
yeah,
as we said earlier
yes.
as well, please do inbox the
Yes,
messages,
yes,
and
please
we'll try
do.
to get them to the right authority to
Yes,
get
of course,
answered.
and you can always
And
email me at ragini@manatv.net. That is RAAGINI at MANATV.net.
So one of the things I know, I mean, you brought about the health beliefs, and I see that when we receive the kids, the babies, the moms, the seniors and the elders in the family are always talking about, oh, let's go ahead and overfeed the mom so she can breastfeed well.
yeah,
so
that is a very common issue, I guess.
all right. So what are your thoughts about that, and how does that actually work? How does that fit into the whole management of gestational diabetes, and how can we get that message across?
So what I feel is that we try to tell the patient, and if usually when we round on the patient at the hospital, basically it's one of the senior members is always there, either the mother-in-law or the mother is there, and I always ask them, I personally ask them that, do you have any questions for me? And then I say that, okay, this is the food habits that we will say that she should not be eating any extra, no need to give extra ghee, or just restrict her to bread and milk, because the white bread and the white milk produces more milk, which is the myth again. So she can eat everything. Should be a balanced diet. She should remain active. Some of the time we notice that the patients are not allowed to go out of their house for like 6 weeks. They can only go to the doctor's visit. That is something that I say that no, at least she should be walking 30 minutes to an hour every day, because whatever you have gained, you have about 6 weeks to lose it, and after that most likely it is very difficult to lose, and we start to gain a lot of weight after that. So I definitely feel that eating habits and that are in our culture needs to change a little bit.
So what are the foods that
They can eat
you are
everything.
suggesting?
They can eat everything in good portion. It should not be in moderate. Everything is okay.
Can you talk about the portion a little bit so then our viewers can understand that what you're talking about, mostly the portions? Yes, because a lot of viewers, they don't understand about.
I think if suppose somebody is eating rice and maximum, I think Dr. Murthy can give some more suggestions, but I think in one meal you can have 1 cup of cooked rice is the max that you are allowed to have. Nothing
Okay.
more than that. Means Dr. Murthy.
Yeah, the way I think about, nutrition, right, whether it's before pregnancy, during pregnancy, and after pregnancy, the lot of myths come from, our culture, our food, from the villages, right, where people were very active. They're in a tropical climate. They need a lot of salt because they sweat a lot, and they would be doing a lot of physical labor. We have to ask, are we doing that? No. We are sitting most of the time. We are, sedentary, even if we have light activity. So our intake should match our activity, right, and our height and weight. So if I'm 5 foot, I cannot eat as much as somebody who is 6 foot, right? So every height and weight has a particular amount of food we need and the level of activity we do. So the day I go to the gym, I may need different amount of calories than the day I don't. So should I say I will work it out tomorrow, and then this extra food that I ate today would be alone on my body, and that would be called fat, right? Right. So we can't take loans. We really need to eat appropriately. So the way I would usually say is, should I exercise today? My question is, am I planning to eat today? And if that is the case, then I must, exercise today. So the food is appropriate to our level of activity, and a little bit more for the baby. But we must remember the baby will only be 7-8 pounds. That's it,
Exactly.
right? So what are we feeding? We are not feeding an extra 1,000 calories for this 8-pound baby. We don't need that. That's all we are saying. And if we eat the right foods, we never have to count the portion, because certain foods, we will overeat. The calorie-dense foods, we will overeat. If there is salt, sugar, fat, we will overeat. If I give you an apple, I don't think you will ask for another apple. If I, give a plain cup of rice. I don't think people will want more, right? If I give them pulao, maybe they will want another cup. So what do we eat with, and the balancing of the plate. So if we start with a little fruit and some fresh vegetables, a little yogurt, by the time we come to roti dal, rice, we will need less. But if we started with, roti and rice, we will need a lot more.
But the conception out in the community is that you should eat more, you should eat more, you should eat more. Because you have to pack up your food so that you can feed the baby properly.
Right.
And
So
so that I think has to.
I feel like for our community especially, it's the amount of carbohydrates and the type of carbohydrates. A lot of them are eating a lot of roti and chapatis and a lot of rice. Really, we want to look at the glycemic index. Like brown rice is better than white rice. A lot of people, we have to introduce that to them or take quinoa instead. Not only after pregnancy, but even during pregnancy. That's one of our main issues, controlling sugars, because once they are diagnosed as diabetic, the sugars are high, and a lot of them don't realize that what I'm eating is affecting my baby, and that's something that we have to keep showing them.
And one thing we do know about babies that come from diabetic moms are that they are larger, right? And we don't know yet, but the research is still ongoing, that are they the ones that are going to go ahead and develop diabetes early on, or are they the ones that are going to develop obesity early on? And this is things that have to be addressed and looked at. So it's a lifelong complication that you're providing to your child, which
That is
could
preventable.
be, which is preventable, or at least manageable better.
Yeah.
Right? So
Well, I think that we're really running out of time, and there are lots of things that we still can discuss. But I think, Dr. Mehrotra, we need this panel one more time in our studio so we can talk more, and we can let our viewers, all our viewers who are watching us, I hope you really enjoyed tonight's episode. And thank you so much, all the doctors, Dr. Chatta and Dr. Acharya and Dr. Murthy, and of course
Thank
Dr. Mehrotra, for making this beautiful show more beautiful. That is Health is Wealth, and the platform is Mana TV. And of course, next week, of course, we will be here again with more topics, but we're not going to share that with our viewers. Keep watching Mana TV and keep watching Health is Wealth.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.